taking the time out of your day to come and support us and us showing our work that we worked really hard. So this year, our community service project was a community garden. I'm sure many of you seen the space. It's right out in the yard, right next to the parking lot. We really want it to be a community garden. So I've asked Upper and Lower L for their input on what they would like. And when I get their feedback, we're going to implement that into our plan for this garden. And so I'd just like to elaborate on what a community garden is. It's really a space where our classes can work freely in a calm and natural environment, and a place where we can harvest crops and really come together as a community. I'd also like to thank Mr. Ian, who's unfortunately not here today. He came in and we presented this very slideshow to him as a consultant, and I hope to be working with him in the future. He actually went here as a student, which we found very intriguing, to say the least. So I'd like to begin our presentation by welcoming up the design team back.
Hi, I'm Madeline.
And I'm Garrett.
And we're in the design team. So just before I get started, I want you to know where the garden is located. This is the circle right out there outside. And this is the space that we'll be looking at, just so you know. Next slide, please.
So we have two designs for the garden. This is the first design. As you can see, we have actually the exact measurements of this. 60 by 50. And would you like to explain this first?
So we have 3 4x4 garden beds and 1 4x8. Those measurements are definite, but yeah. And then we have a greenhouse, 5 trees. Hopefully they'll be fruit trees. Mulch pathway, wildflowers, so we don't have any invasive species or any non-native stuff. And an elaborate. Right. Next slide, please.
Yeah, keep in mind, all this is purely conceptual. We don't have any of the materials currently, but we are in the process of getting them. So these are again the 3 4x4 garden beds, the 8x4, and these will be talked about later. But these are 3 rain barrels and 3 benches for workspaces and for eating, and this is the greenhouse.
Thank you. Now I'd like to welcome up Johan.
Hello, I'm Johan and I did the water aspect of the garden. So far what I've researched is the possibility of owning a pond. What fish would help in a pond, not just be there for decoration, but actually help the ecosystem. The nearest water source, so for when we want to water our garden. Rain barrels without gutters, because as you saw in the pictures, where our garden is, we do not have access to gutters. And efficiently maintaining a garden. Next slide, please. So, at least what I think of first when I hear water in gardening or landscaping is a pond. So that's what I researched first. I found that it would be pretty hard to have a pond because we do not have an outlet where our garden is, and so we would have to use solar power pumps, and those are not as efficient and more expensive. So what the pumps would do would be keep away mosquitoes and other pests because mosquitoes lay their eggs in still water, and the pumps would keep recirculating the water. So I looked into other ways to stop mosquitoes from laying their eggs, and I found mosquito fish, which eat mosquito eggs. But even though there are alternatives to a pump, it would still be a very long and hard process to get a pond going. Next slide, please. Water sources. Our nearest hose is right outside our door. It is 170 feet away from the garden, and it is nearly 70 feet long. So that would be very inconvenient convenient to use every time we wanted to water our garden. Another way we could get water is rain barrels, but as I said, there are no gutters out where our garden is. So I researched and I found a company called Rain Saucer. And what they do is they make big funnels for rain barrels when you don't have a gutter. And we would like to have those, but we also Mr. Ian, who Ben talked about, he told me about these things called hoods, and they're 4 foot by 4 foot huge containers that hold water. And so you fill it up once, and it would be hard to take over there, but you wouldn't have to refill it for a long time because of how much water it holds. And I also found trickle hoses are very nice for watering a garden because it takes a lot less time, and it would take less time out of our education here. Next slide, please. When we get our final plants, I plan to research into how much each plant needs so we don't overwater or underwater it, because water is a very important resource and we should use it wisely. I would like to introduce the construction group of Augie, Zoe, Finn, and Luke.
Hi, I'm Zoe, and we are the construction crew. So we are planning on building a greenhouse for our garden, also raised garden beds, and more fences to keep out the pests and animals. Next slide.
Okay, so last year we started work on a greenhouse, and we put a lot of time and effort into it, but it was sadly destroyed in right as we finished it in a storm, so we're hoping to rebuild it in the garden. Next slide.
I'm Luke, and I was in charge of researching the fencing. So the two main pests we would be using the fences to keep out would be deer and groundhogs. So to keep out the deer, the fence would have to be around 8 feet tall. And to keep out the groundhogs, we would dig under the ground and make like an L-shaped fence so that the groundhogs couldn't dig under it. And to keep groundhogs from climbing over the fence, we would leave the top part of it not unsecured so that when they try to climb over, they just fall down. Next slide, please.
Hi, my name is Augie, and I researched the garden beds. I researched that cedar wood is the best wood to build raised garden bed because it is naturally rot resistant, and over time it won't wear down. Also, from the design team, I got these measurements. 1 8 foot by 4 foot by 11 inch garden bed, and 3 4 foot by 4 foot by 11 inch beds. I also did some more research, and we found out that it's best if we put chicken wire below the raised garden beds because to prevent any pests that get past the fence.
We'd like to welcome the plant group.
So we were in charge of researching plants and soil that goes into our garden. I mainly focused on the plants. These are just some of the plants that we could grow in our garden based on our location and our hardiness level of our location. I figured that watermelons would be kind of difficult to grow in our 4x4 garden beds as they're very large in size, so they would probably not be best in that size. But once I get the feedback from upper and lower L, I will take those into consideration and see what our community would like to grow. Next slide, please.
My name is Luca. I'm part of the plant team too, but I was in charge of researching the soil. So from the research I did, I found out that there are 3 types of main soil: sand, silt, and clay. But the best type of soil is like a sandy loam, and loam consists of those 3 main types of soil. Next slide.
Thank you for listening. Do you have any? Well, I would like to call up representatives of each team to answer any questions that you might have about our plan.
would be hard to do. It would be hard to do it because it's getting colder, and so we may plan to start it early spring.
Did I miss any commentary on composting, stuff like that? Are you gonna say something?
So we went to agriculture farms, AG farms, and they showed us their composting layout. We did take pictures and we're hoping of doing that. But we also have a compost over by the old FRL and where the chickens are. So we use that usually for us. We walk it over.
Thanks.
Yeah, you can go. Sorry.
So I know that often chickens will graze in gardens. Would you guys allow that, or would they be?
I also you could go.
Okay, so their chickens, I learned this information from Mr. Ian. They're great helps in our garden because they aerate the ground, allowing oxygen to get into the soil to help the plants grow. So if we built the garden beds the raised garden beds high enough, the chickens wouldn't get onto the garden beds and graze on those. But also, if you put on the VHS tapes, the film around the bed's perimeter, that will scare the animals.
Because it's shimmering.
And it will scare them away.
So you would have lower beds. You would have lower beds with the tape around.
And also, something else. And also, chicken poop. It has nitrogen in it, and that is very helpful for leafy growth.
We even went in Arizona. We went to the farm and the beds were raised, but the chickens could still get in there, and there was no problem at all. The only problem that I do see, is them digging up like potatoes. That's like the only thing. I don't think they'll actually eat them, but they'll just dig them up, and so other animals can access them. So that's the only problem that I do see happening.
I remember that the greenhouse was destroyed by the storm. When do you expect to have a greenhouse again?
We were really disappointed when the greenhouse got torn apart. So we do have pieces left. I don't think we'll be able to reuse them. I don't know when we're going to actually start building the greenhouse again. Probably in the spring again, or as soon as we can, maybe. As soon as we get the parts. And we need to figure out a good way of labeling them, because that made it go longer, I think, than if we didn't have them labeled well.
So you, as a group, built the greenhouse?
Yeah, last year
With the sixth graders.
the sixth graders helped a little bit with us. So maybe this year they can help with us too. Yeah.
So would there be anything that you would do differently in the construction to prevent another, destruction storm?
So last year it was really cold, and the organizing and the process of building it was going really slowly because our hands were numb and it just wasn't working. So hopefully the next time we do it, we look into the future and say, oh, what time is it going to get cold? What are the weather patterns, so we know we can get it done faster or more quickly.
Yeah, I don't think we nailed it in very well.
No,
The actual the metal twisted, it bent. It was really bad.
the metal, they gave us, it came with stakes, and they said that the stakes should help keep it down, and they didn't at all. So we're gonna have to figure out maybe sandbags or digging into the ground, but I don't think we're allowed to. But we'll figure something out and keeping it down so it doesn't blow.
Do you think location could have an impact? I mean, if you have it in a certain place that's going to be more protected from storms.
Yeah, the place that we have outside that I showed you in the picture, there's not much protection except a hill, and I don't really, because there's not really a flat surface a big flat surface there, but there is kind of on the bottom, but that won't fit the greenhouse. So we're hopefully.
Merritt built a greenhouse at Gilman with some of his friends, and we actually built the greenhouse at our house and then transported it over to Gilman. And then when we put it down, we found these stakes that you can screw into the ground and use a strap over the top of the greenhouse. And then with a pulley system, it's strapped down. Because the first time we tried it, the same thing happened. It flew down. But so with stakes and a strap over the top, it actually holds the whole system.
That's a really
Yeah.
So what I was going to suggest is Mary can come and take a look at what you guys are doing.
Yeah, that would be okay. Yeah, that'd be really helpful. Thank you. Any other questions?
Is there any other help that you guys need from the community to get this project going?
What I was kind of pondering a couple ideas. Because, well, I guess I didn't really reintroduce myself in the beginning. I'm the gardening manager for this year. And so I was thinking of a couple ideas. Maybe when we have the construction done, we could have maybe a day where the community could come and help plant the garden as maybe a way to signify that it is a community garden.
I have something. You can donate your time, treasure, and talent. So we learned this last year. So time meaning, yeah, come plant with us and come help us out. Treasure, like any donations we would really appreciate. Even donations of tools like pots or shovels or just anything, or talent. So if you really are good in the garden, please come teach us. We'll be happy to hear your interest.
Are there design precedents or touchstones that you're using from other successful designs, both aesthetic and practical, for the design work you're doing?
So, not really. We kind of are using, the design for the layout, are you talking about? We're kind of just going on their ideas, because we all wrote down what we think should be on the garden and how we should plan it out, kind of, and we kind of just smushed all those ideas together.
Our idea was helped out by the master gardener who came in, Mr. Ian. So it does have, he said it would work pretty well. So we may change a few things if we hear that wouldn't work, but I think our start is pretty solid.
Where were you when you created the design, I guess?
We were actually in the garden.
Yeah, we were in a garden. There's a master gardener.
It was at AG Farms, what I explained earlier, and they have this beautiful garden. It's all, I think it's all organic, and all students planted most of it, and they made teepees out of sticks and covered it with roses and flowers. It's just gorgeous, and we got a lot of the ideas from
Do the members of the community have a plot in the garden?
Ooh.
There's a camera.
Well, what we've thought of so far, yes and no. Mostly no. Yeah, no. We will be planting things that everybody can use, but not a specific plot for people. We might have lettuce and something in another one, but you can come and collect it, but not your own personal one.
And as I said earlier, you can kind of make it your own personal. You can come help plant. We're totally open to that. Basically the layout for the 4x4, just two people are going to be from Adolescents and Community are are going to be working on two people per 4x4 and then 3 people for the 4x8. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the project that we are presenting next is our 8 water presentations. We have worked on this probably about the whole trimester, and the reason for this, research is because this amazing element water we take for granted every day, but before this I never knew all of this about water, and it's just an amazing amazing molecule, and I realized that I've been taking for granted this amazing thing. So first up is Maddie with,
Maddie. Water is actually a chemical hitchhiker. Next slide, please. Water was created 4.6 billion years ago on an asteroid named Anastasia Mastrocoeli. Next slide, please. Since then, water has become the most important aspect of life. Next slide, please. So, Orion. Most people know this constellation as a constellation. But the brightest star, the star right here, is actually a giant gas cloud. Next slide, please. This giant gas cloud is where the closest region to Earth where stars are being born. And this place is so hot and just incredible temperature that different molecules can be made, like water. Orion can actually produce so much water that it can fill Earth's oceans every 24 minutes. Next slide, please. Water just doesn't come from here, but water just doesn't come from Orion, but from here too. Research has improved so we can reuse water more efficiently. So the water gen. Science have predicted by 2025, two-thirds of the world will face water drinking shortages. They created water gen as the answer. 10,000 devices can hydrate 25 million people. Next slide, please. The water gen uses water from the atmosphere, so changing the water cycle. Next slide, please. There's also sky water. Sky water produces 1,100 liters of water per day, pure drinking water from the humidity of the air. Next slide, please. So, 100 billion people have lived on the Earth, in the history of the Earth, and they drank 1,100 trillion tons of water. So, next slide, please. Water is basically life, and now I hope when you think of water that you don't just think of just like a faucet. You think of where it came from and how it's made and just how valuable it is and how lucky we are for water to land on Earth. And as Mr. Elliott's quote said in the beginning, that we can't even conceive what water would be like, what life would be like without water. So, thank you. Oh, sorry. Next person is here.
Mars is there, waiting to be reached. Buzz Aldrin, Apollo 11, Lunar module. Next slide. So I researched how NASA is using technology to find water on Mars. Because out of the choices, this one was the most technology based, and I'm really interested in it. So 13 Mars rovers have been sent to Mars. 6 of them have taken samples and are studying the surface, but only 46% of them have advanced the exploration of it. That means the other percentages of them either crashed on Mars or became stuck in soft soil within a few seconds of hitting its surface. Next slide. So the 13th Mars rover, Curiosity, found ancient bodies of water and ice pockets on Mars. And the Mars Recon Orbiter, which does not currently have a call sign, found an ancient supervolcano that may have affected its climate. It also found polar ice caps on Mars, as Earth has these, that triple in size during the winter time. These are the ice cores that were siphoned from Mars. As you can see, they have a lot of rock sediment in them, but you can see the little places of ice from Mars. Frozen water. If all water is on Mars melted, could its previous climate be restored? So 3.8 billion years ago, Mars' surface may have been dominated by water, so around 3/4 of Mars, when it was a higher temperature and had a thicker atmosphere. Next slide. This is Yellowknife Bay in the Gale crater of the eastern hemisphere of Mars, and as you can see, there's a place going through the middle of it where it looks like there could have been like a running body of water. Also in a few other places, but this is the most. Next slide. So why search for water? Why on Earth or Mars is it so important? So the reason NASA has been sending rovers and orbiters to Mars is to find the water, but the reason it finds water is because it is an essential resource, and we may need to go to Mars in the event that Earth becomes uninhabitable or has been drained of all its resources. So it takes 130 to 260 days to get to Mars. 130 being the high-speed option, which requires more fuel and will make the spacecraft heavier. But also keep in mind that it needs to have a direct line of travel, so it can come to Mars without missing it. But there's only a line every 1.6 years for that. So it would be very hard to get to Mars, get everybody inside. So this is a graphic of the travel to Mars. So the Earth is going this way, as Mars is going this way, and the spacecraft is launched. I think it actually goes this way. The spacecraft is launched here, as Mars goes. It has to have a direct line of travel, so it has to land directly at Mars, and the spacecraft has to leave at the exact right time and the exact right speed, or else it'll just miss Mars. Not be very good. Next slide. Thank you.
Oh, that's great!
Garrick, have you seen that there's a National Geographic documentary on Mars?
And Miss Charlie was just telling me about that, but I haven't seen it.
It just started this week, and I think it's 12 episodes long.
Yes.
Is there any chance of transporting water from Mars to here to help us?
Yes, there is a lot of ice under the surface of Mars, but there isn't any, people have been speculating that there is running water on Mars, but currently there isn't any running water on Mars, just considering how cold it is there, where it would technically not be possible. Yes?
If they have water, do they suspect there is some kind of life in Mars too?
Lots of Well, there's lots of things about Martians and such, but I don't think there's any life. But there has been some studies on like single-celled organisms and bacteria on Mars that are frozen within the water, but they haven't found any of that yet. Thank you again.
What are you?
I have to introduce Luca with his paper making project.
Did you know that it takes 3 gallons of water to make a single sheet of paper? Well, since I don't have any industrial paper making materials, I decided to make homemade paper. So, and I will be covering the water aspects of making it. So, before I did it, I really didn't know that it used so much water to make paper. So the first step was I had to fill this pan up halfway with warm water and get little scraps of paper, put them in here and let them soak for 30 minutes or more. After that, I had to get a blender and fill this up halfway with water and put the scraps of paper in there until I made I made pulp here. And then I had to fill this tub up, and I will be doing a live demonstration on the paper. And then I had to get this screen here and pretty much let it soak up all the fibers and stuff. See, and here we have all the fibers coming together to make paper, and the final product looks like this, but I would have to let it sit overnight. And I thought it was really interesting because I really didn't know how much water it used just to make a single sheet of paper. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any?
So what happens to water after the paper's made? It can't be
Well,
reclaimed?
in industrial paper making, it just gets recycled and used over. And, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the process with the industrial?
Okay, yeah, sure. So the way it's done in industrial paper making is, well, they just get recycled paper and wood chips, and they make it into gigantic bales of paper, and then they put it in a hydropulver, which is pretty much a giant blade that makes it into a liquid pulp. And after that, they put it on the gigantic rollers that squeeze out all the water, and what's left is just bonded cellulose fibers, and it makes single sheets of paper.
You were talking earlier to me about the natural color of paper versus the whiter paper that we're used to. Can you talk about that? I thought that was really interesting.
Can you say the question again?
You were talking earlier about how paper is naturally a dark, like a brown, and that we do something to it to make it white.
Well, I don't know too much about it, but from what I know, I hear they put bleach in it to make it very white, and I hear that's not very good for the environment. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I'm sure many of you have pools or have been in a pool or have seen a pool, but have you ever wondered what makes pool water so different from fresh and ocean water?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So, why am I telling you about it? Well, many people don't know why they have to manage or what they have to manage or measure. And I also want to inform you about the exact levels or ideal levels for the chemical tests that are run on pool water. Next slide, please. What makes pool water different from fresh water? The pH level. It's one of the elements tested in pool water when maintaining the pool. The the pH level indicates the acidity in the water. The higher the pH reading, the lower the acid content. The lower the pH reading, the higher acid content. And the ideal level is between 7.2 and 7.6. Next slide, please. So, tucked in the corner over here, I just want to show you the pH test. Just run on distilled water that I got from alcohol. Thank you. So you want to take 5 milliliters of water and put it into a test tube. You need exactly 5 milliliters for this test, because that's how it's designed. And then you take 3 drops of this pH solution, and then you apply that into the test tube, and then, as it says in the booklet, cap it, and then invert it a couple times. And then, once you've done that, you take this and you align it with the color of the pH measuring system, I guess, in the booklet. So you want to pass this around. It's about 7.0, 7.2, around there, if you want to compare that. So there are many of these tests that we ran with some of our other projects that we've done this trimester. But next slide, please. The total alkalinity level. The total alkalinity is the amount of acid needed to raise or lower the pH level to its 7.2 to 7.6. The ideal amount helps to resist sudden or extreme changes in the pH. The ideal amount of total alkalinity is 80 to 120 parts per million, or ppm as it's commonly referred to. Next slide, please. The total dissolved solids, or TDS level. The TDS level measures all content that's not filtered out by the pool filter. It measures content such as this. All of these are very small, but very harmful. It can seep into your skin and really harm you. And the ideal level is less than 2,000 ppm. You want it as low as possible, but higher than that could be really harmful. Next slide, please. The hardness level. Excuse me. The hardness level is the measurement of calcium in the water. In plaster-lined pools, which you see with community pools and public pools, calcium slowly erodes from the plaster around the pool when the water pushes up against it, and that adds to the water and adding to the hardness level. High amounts of calcium can result in cloudy and dull water, which you probably don't want to swim in, and low amounts of calcium can result in staining the surface, resulting in, again, redoing the entire pool water. And again, probably don't want to swim in that either. The ideal level is 200 to 400 ppm. This also adds to the TDS level. When this increases, the TDS increases, as it's one of the content measured by the total dissolved solids. Next slide, please. It's my very, very lengthy bibliography. Next slide. Thanks for listening. Any comments or questions? Any questions?
Does it change at all when you are measuring the Does it
Yes, it's the same exact levels when you're measuring a spa or a hot tub.
Even the heat doesn't change?
No, it doesn't. The heat, the heat changes nothing because when the sun hits the pool water in summer, that heats up the water, and it really doesn't change anything. But the book that I got all this information from was a complete guide to maintaining a pool or hot tub. So, yes.
How do you measure the TDS levels?
So, could you go back to the... so this is how you measure the TDS level. It's a little like wand type thing that you stick into the water and you press one of the buttons. I don't have that test here, but you push it and on this screen it comes up with how much content is in that water. Yes.
How often would you have to do that?
You really want to maintain it. So the book said about a week to 2 weeks you want to measure it. So pretty frequently. Yes.
Do you know if there's any difference between maintaining a saltwater or a chlorine pool?
I actually don't know.
Not in the book.
No, it didn't specify.
Thank you.
What is the role of chlorine in maintaining?
So, as some information was shared with me, it depends on what you personally want in the water. So if you want it really chlorinified, if you want the water to have a lot of chlorine in it, then you would have high amounts or low amounts, depending on what you're doing. Any other questions? Yes.
How do you correct the levels if they're off?
Well, like for the pH and the alkalinity level, you would change the alkalinity level to change the pH level. I'm not sure how you would do that exactly, but that's just one example of how you would maintain the pH level. Any other questions? Alrighty. Well, thank you.
Can you imagine a world without soil? Plants wouldn't be able to grow, right? It's actually quite simple. It's called hydroponics. Hydroponics is a process of growing plants in sand, gravel, or liquid with added nutrients, but without soil. Hydroponics gives you the ability to meticulously control variables that affect how well your plants grow. You can free yourself from potentially unsafe foods contaminated by pesticides or worse by growing your own clean, healthy foods hydroponically. So hydroponics is so simple, you can build your own handmade system with just a couple of materials. So first, I found a small container to be used as my reservoir. You don't want a transparent container because allowing light into your reservoir will promote the growth of algae, which will take away the oxygen and nutrients from the plants that you would like to grow. Then you want to find some net pots. These are the net pots. You can also make your own net pots by getting plastic cups and putting slits into them for the roots. Also, you want to find something to hold your net pots. I found an old net holder. You can also use styrofoam, and you can just drill holes the size of your net pots, and then they can just float on top of your water. So the growing root system is supported using a growing medium. A growing medium is the material in which the roots are growing. So clay pebbles, this is what I have right here. This is an organic growing medium. They're designed to recirculate hydroponic systems, and they're effective at retaining moisture, trapping air, or oxygenating any nutrient solution which flows over it. So, if you like to pass this around. So that's why I chose clay pebbles for my hydroponic system. So plants require nutrients for normal growth. Depending on the product, there are approximately 17 required nutrients for proper plant growth. So on your handout, there's a list of all the nutrients needed for proper plant growth. But as long as you have those nutrients, you don't need soil. So hydroponics uses a nutrient solution as a substitute for soil. So it's mixed into the water and it helps grow all of the plants that you like. So lastly, you need an air pump. This is the air pump. The pump you choose must be strong enough to provide enough oxygen for the plants that you choose to grow. Then you have air lines. These air lines are connected to the air pump, like this. Each one is connected to the air pump, and then the other side connects to these air stones. And then the air stones are put at the bottom of your hydroponic system, so then it can distribute air to the rest of your system. So, people ask frequently, what can you grow hydroponically? The answer is quite simple. You can grow a large variety of flowers, vegetables, and herbs hydroponically, with the exception of mushrooms, because those are fungi. Research continues into hydroponics. I think two of the greatest benefits of hydroponics is the high nutritional value of the vegetables and herbs you choose to grow. So for my system, I chose to grow Christmas basil. I planted these about 2 to 3 days ago, and they already started sprouting. So once they're seedlings, I'm going to transfer them into my system, and then it can start running, and hopefully it will be fully functional. Thank you.
It sounds like hydroponics is a really good way to go for planting and crops, so why don't more farmers or more people use hydroponics as a way to grow their crops and their
I think one reason is that not many people are informed about this topic, because I don't know if many of you know about this topic before this presentation, but it's a very small farming way, or it's a very small way of farming. So I think the farmers need to be informed more about growing like this, and yeah.
I was listening to the radio, listening to NPR News yesterday, and there was this protest by organic farmers that people wanted to call hydroponics organic, and they were yelling, if it was no soil, it's not organic. Do you know anything about that?
No, I don't.
I can't see from here, the seedlings that you started, were they started in the clay or were they started in the soil?
I started them in the soil because I already had a little growing medium, so they're just adding nutrients into the soil. So I started in the soil because I already had something like this. But you can also, at the stores, they sell little blocks, and then you just rip open, you just put the seeds in them, and then they start growing out of the blocks as a substitute for these clay pebbles, and they can just start growing out of those.
So can you use hydroponics to grow something from seed?
Yes.
So you can. Okay.
And as our local hydroponic, is there any opportunity to incorporate any of this into the community garden that we heard about?
Yes, I think we could, because it's a super simple process, and I think if we implement this, we can build we can implement it into the greenhouse. So I think that'll.
The amount of energy that's needed with the running of the pump, is it more expensive to run hydroponics than just having a garden in the soil?
I'm not really sure about that. I'll have to get back to you on that.
On your handout, you talk talked about the macronutrients and micronutrients that are needed for growing. Are those things that you add in, or are they within the clay pebbles?
No, so you add this nutrient solution into the water so it like, gets mixed in, and then maybe you would add a couple, or maybe like a liter or two every other month, and then it would help sustain the whole system.
And how often do you have to change out the water in the system?
Not often. You maybe like every 6 months or so, because it's constantly running. Since it's constantly running, the whole system is like sustaining itself.
What about the pesticides and control of like inside the system? Like, do you use pesticides or?
No. Yeah, this doesn't use any pesticides unless you choose to. But yeah.
Like, how would you avoid the use of pesticides? Or what's the difference between these and the traditional way in terms of the pesticide use? Do you know that?
No. Oh, sorry.
That's fine.
Do you know if bugs are a problem with them? I guess it depends where it is, right?
Yeah, I think it depends where it is. I know mosquitoes aren't a problem because you have the air pump that is running the water, because the mosquitoes lay their eggs on the like still water. So I know mosquitoes aren't a problem, and as long as you keep it away from, if this could be run inside, so as long as you keep it away from pests.
Can you explain how you're going to and when you're going to move the seedlings into the?
Okay, so I have these. This is Christmas basil. So once they're tall enough, I'm going to transfer them I'm just going to take them out, and then I'm going to wash the roots, because the roots, once they're big enough, I'm going to wash the roots off. And then you can, I would just remove these pebbles, and then I put it in, and then like have it hang, and then I put all the pebbles, and then it would hold itself. Once they're big
There's no
enough.
soil, so you don't have any soil.
No.
Can you grow the seed directly on the clay stones?
No. As I said, you can use those blocks, and then because if you put the seeds in, they'll probably fall through all this. So. Thank you. Now I'd like to welcome Finn.
This is practically place for this man, the rich soil, in Israel, came out of it because it's
So water is used in every aspect of our daily lives. When you turn on a light, you're actually using water. Next slide. So I researched water's role in the generation of electricity.
I think it's
Next slide. Okay, so how that power gets generated and these kind of things is the fuel source, like say nuclear energy, where coal gets heated, gets burned there, and the water gets boiled, which produces steam, which turns a turbine, which spins a coiled wire in the generator that's in a magnet that produces electricity. Next slide. Okay, so water is used to clean out the coal boilers and coal power plants to keep the plant running efficiently. I talked about this process just then. The coal plants can also get in water and therefore negatively affect any things that live in and off the water. Next slide. Okay, so in the 1980s, a drilling company called Mitchell Energy began to experiment with hydrofracking. So what they did was they pumped liquids at high pressures into the wells, which could create cracks in underground, like the underground, and release trapped oil and gas. So they use a mixture of some chemicals water and sand or small ceramic beads. Okay, so hydroelectric dams use running water to turn turbine blades connected to generators. So they work just like the steam, like the generators that rely on steam, only they take out the whole boiling and turning into steam process and just use flow of water to turn the turbines. So the dams can also have negative impacts, like they can get in the way of fish movements, they can affect water chemistry, water temperature, and the flow of the rivers that they're built on. And the reservoirs can cover up important natural areas which can negatively affect wildlife and all that. So, next slide. And here's a picture of Hoover Dam. It's a big power producer. So, next slide. Alright, so the flow of the tide spins turbines on a kind of barrier called a barrage that produces electricity. So pretty much like the water flows back and forth in between this and spins the turbine here. And the wave turbines work much like wind turbines. Like they use waves to turn the turbine, which does all the power production. Next slide. And nuclear power plants use water for cooling, but they also use the reactors to boil the water into steam, which turns the turbine and produces power. And in case of an emergency, they actually they're required to have an emergency supply of water that can last for at least 30 days, and to cool the plant for at least 30 days. Next slide. And all of these processes are used so people like you can turn on the light. And here are my sources. This is a website here. I don't remember the name of the website exactly, but
Once the water is used for cooling, is it radioactive? And so what is done with the water?
I read about this in for the nuclear power plants, they actually they purify the water through some process and
Okay. How is water filtered? So did you know that that you guys, or everybody flushes things down the toilet that you aren't supposed to, such as wipes, paper towels, condoms, and women's menstrual products, and many more. So before I start, I'm going to show you a water filter that I made. So what I did was I got two 2-liter bottles, and I cut the top off and the bottom off of one, and I put gauze on the top of this with a rubber band. Then I put gauze inside, then sand from just sand out of our sand boxes, then pebbles or little small rocks, and then big rocks. The water, it filters out the solids, but not the bacteria. So to actually drink it, I would have to have a special treatment like iodine or something like that. So I'm gonna pour it in. It has all these solids in it with fish poop, or shrimp poop, and decaying water plants. So by the end, some of it should be filtered out. Okay, next slide, please. So consumer filtration. Next slide, please. There are about 3 main treatments that you can use by yourself. So first is iodine. Second is ultraviolet light, but that is more expensive. Third is carbon filters, and fourth, a regular water filter that you can, like a Deer Park water filter or something like that. Next slide. So iodine, the main thing that iodine does is kill the bacteria. So if you're on a hike or camping and you run out of like fresh, pure water, you can, and if you have iodine, you can use the crystals, the tablets, or the tincture. The tincture is the liquefied version of iodine, so you can put about 15 drops of the tincture in your water and just wait about 30 minutes and your water should be good. It does not take the solids out though. So it does take away all the bacteria, so it's safe to drink, but it doesn't take out the solids. Next slide, please. So UV treatment, it kills the bacteria, but it does not change the pH, taste, odor, or general chemistry of the water. So there's big plants or water treatment plants that use all these ultraviolet lights, and I have a video to show you how exactly. 127.
So you want to explain the video?
So what the video explains is the UV light, it kills the bacteria and it takes away the chlorine and bleach, and it also it takes away the chlorine and bleach, and you can also use iodine to do that too. So the UV treatments, you can use Camelback has water bottles that they are working on for like buying. You can buy the water bottles and they'll have UV lights in them that hang down. So then your water can, if you turn it on, you'll be able to charge it, and so then you'll be able to charge it, and then you'll be able to use it in your water. It doesn't take away the solids though, but it does clear out the water. So, the Wi-Fi slow. The filter is working. There's some water, if you see at the bottom, that's been already cleared out, and it's dripping down. As you can see, it's a little hard to see. And you can make these water filters at your house too. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. The Camelback, they have, it connects to the lids, and it's just this thing that runs, or it's a UV light that runs down off of the lid, and you can charge it. They are, from what I know, pretty expensive because they're UV lights. And also using in a treatment plant, those are really expensive too. Next slide, please. Okay, so carbon filters. The carbon filters remove the chlorine, the sediment, the taste, and the odor, but it does not remove minerals, salt, or dissolved inorganic compounds. So Brita, Brita, the water filtering company, you may have a Brita water filter at your house, or your friends may have one or something. They use carbon filters. Also, our classroom, we have an air filter right there, and that uses carbon filter. So you can use it for water and air. They usually look something like this, or for the Brita, those are usually like sheets of the carbon filters. Next slide. So our school water filters. Greenspring uses a company called Pure Water. It uses ATX auto tank sanitation, which is the last process before the water comes out. So it's the last sanitation process. If you want more information, you can go to purewaterpa.com. Okay. So moving on to the bigger treatment plants. So the wastewater facilities have a reservoir that they use. Then it travels to the mixing basin where the water gets mixed around really fast. And then the water that's mixed moves on to the settling basin. And then the water comes into the settling basin and it makes the water still and all the solids go to the bottom. And then that sludge gets taken out. And then it goes to the filtration tank. So each company has their own way of filtering. So either UV or something like that. Next slide, please. So this is usually what a treatment plant looks like. They have their mixing basins here, their settling basins here, and then this company has their filtration tanks here and right there. And then this is just a diagram of how it basically gets to you. Next slide. So the natural sources that filter water are natural wetlands. So the natural wetlands filter the water that's coming off the land. So rain, if it comes down, and water that's just coming off the land. So it reduces and takes out the sediment and chemicals in the water. Next, oysters are a big part of filtering water. So the water, or the dirty water, comes through the mouth, and it goes in this tube right here, and it goes down to the gills, and the gills filter out the water, and then it sends the clean water out. Next slide, please. So this is a picture of the same water with oysters and without oysters. So you can tell that oysters are a really big help in filtering water. And then this is a natural wetland in Maryland. So you can see them anywhere. Thanks for watching. Any questions or comments?
So if you eat raw oysters, are you eating all the stuff that we're filtering out of our...
Basically, yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So when you were doing your research, did you hear anything? You mentioned bleach, how bleach is filtered out, but I heard somewhere and I was curious if you've read any more about bleach. Someone told me if you use bleach in your wash, or it never can be taken out.
I haven't heard, but I'll look into that. Yeah.
Did you visit a water treatment
No.
plant? No.
I think it would be too far away in Maryland, I think. Yeah. Any more questions? Oh, and the water, by the end of today, will probably be all filtered. Yeah.
I have a question about the UV filter, was it the Camelback, I think?
Yeah,
So, what do you have to plug that in? So you couldn't hike with your UV filter?
Yeah.
Because you'd have to plug that into something, correct?
Well, you can, from what I know, you can charge it at like your house, and then you can, I think there's probably a certain amount of time that it's good for, and then you can use it.
Do you know if they're making solar ones?
But I think those would probably be pretty expensive. Because the UV and solar panel are kind of the same, and the UV is pretty expensive, but it is.
Maybe you should design the solar.
Yeah. Thank you. Next up is Luke.
We're doing it like that?
Yeah.
Dangerously clean water is being used to make everything from iPhones to microwaves. Next slide. So microchips hold the memory and processing power for most electronic devices, and since they're so small, the tiniest bits of debris won't damage them. Next slide. The main way that water is used to make microchips is by cleaning them. So there are smaller factories inside microchip factories, that are used just to make the water that cleans them. And since the tiniest bits of debris can damage the microchips, the water can't have anything on it or in it. Next slide. So the water that they use to clean the microchips is called ultra pure water. So it is stripped of everything, and since it has nothing in it, it tastes very flat, and it also deprives humans of certain minerals. So to make ultra pure water, it goes through 3 filtration steps, and those steps are much more intense than our purified drinking water goes through. So since ultra pure water is harmful to your body, it is only used for scientific purposes. Next slide. So to purify drinking water, when you purify the water that you drink, it removes any biological contaminants, suspended solids, and gases. And then RO, which is the process of reverse osmosis filtration, it uses a membrane to sift out salts and other unwanted minerals. Next slide. So the filtration step, one of the ways to make ultra pure water goes as follows. They take regular water and combine it with a regimen of RO and a bactericidal UV, which is ultraviolet water. The new water mixture is stored in a specially made tank that keeps it safe from airborne contaminants. And then the water goes through a dual wavelength ultraviolet lamp and a polishing cartridge that removes any contaminants below trace levels. Next slide. Thank you for listening. Do you have any questions? Yes.
Why, you said something that, why is that water dangerous for drinking?
Because when you take everything out of it, it'll deprive you of certain minerals, so that you can get injured from it.
So is it dangerous, or is it that it just doesn't give you extra?
No, it's dangerous. It actually deprives you of it.
Okay.
It doesn't just not give you it. It takes it away.
So you're saying you shouldn't drink that bottled water?
No, you shouldn't drink. No, well, they don't make it for drinking. They just make it for scientific purposes. Yeah.
So like you have a Dasani bottle in there.
Yeah, so that's just
How much water is used for the making of a standard electronic device?
I'm not sure, but I'm guessing it's not a lot because microchips are so small, so they wouldn't need a lot of water to clean it.
Did they start making this kind of water with when they started using microchips, or is it also used for other things?
I think it has other purposes, so it's probably made before microchips, but it is used to clean microchips. Yeah.
Who invented the microchip?
I don't know that. Okay. Thank you. I would like to welcome Johan.
If you look around, you see life everywhere. Other people, plants. If you look outside, you may see a squirrel or a bug or a chicken. But have you ever wondered how life started? Next slide, please. Now, we all know all life depends on water. If any kind of life does not have water, it won't survive. So it makes sense that many scientists theorize that life started in water. But that's not the only reason they theorize that. Water also has many unique qualities, one of them being it's a universal solvent, which means it can dissolve almost anything over time. So it can dissolve the waste of the early organisms, so it wouldn't contaminate the water around it. But although it can dissolve almost anything, it cannot dissolve fats or oils, and cells are coated in that today, so they could definitely have been coated in that when life started. Next slide, please. Scientists believe the Earth is 4 billion years old, and they believe life started 3.5 billion years ago. Many of them also believe, like I said, that life started in water. They have conducted many experiments to prove this hypothesis. Next slide. One of the most famous is the Miller-Urey experiment. In a tank of salt water, they had ammonia, methane, and hydrogen, which are elements they believe to be present 3.5 billion years ago when life presumably started. They also used electric sparks to try to represent lightning hitting the water. They ended up with amino acids and sugars, which can create life. Next slide, please. Most experiments trying to recreate life end up with amino acids and sugars. These combine with water to make a chain, which is a protein. And proteins are essential building blocks for all life. Next slide, please. Another experiment is Professor Hazen's experiment. He also ended up with amino acids and sugars. Though he didn't use sparks, he used pressure because he believed life started very deep in the ocean. He also had zinc and copper in his experiment because he thought life started near hydrothermal vents. Next slide. Hydrothermal vents are cracks at the bottom of oceans that lead into lower layers of the Earth. They need a lot of heat and elements like zinc and copper, which is why he had those in his experiment. Next slide. All of these facts and experiments have led many people to conclude that life definitely started in water. Next slide. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions or comments, please. Yes.
Do you know, is there any connection between the hydrothermal vents and tectonic plates? Is that at all connected? Or are you researching?
That wasn't very close to my research, but it seems like they could be. Yes?
You might or might not be able to, or want to answer this. So how do you respond to people that say, well, life created in the Garden of Eden? Right? We're going to deal with that, right? That's coming up.
That's coming up.
I don't really know how to answer.
Neither do I.
Any other questions?
Johanna,
Yes.
after the protein chain is
Yeah.
created, what is the next step?
Well, there was a lot of different things on that, but we are made up of proteins mostly, and so if multiple proteins were made in one spot, then they could combine to make life.
And so then it leads to the creation of a cell?
Yes. Well, thank you. Oh, wait. Sorry.
It wasn't a question, it was just a comment that I'm thinking, this combination between yours and Garrick's, and just thinking back to, the creation of life on Mars, and really now that they've been able to recreate this experiment, and posit just the presence of water and spark, it's interesting to just tie yours together.
Thank you so much. Lying down the great wood steps. Adrenaline rushes as the baby travels down the steps of the smoky home on Joppa Road. I would now like to welcome Johan. I also did a poem. My poem is called Water. Water rushing over my feet. The city lights behind me, screaming for my attention. But I pay no mind. I'm already hypnotized by the frothy, alluring water rushing over my feet. My senses calmed by the salty ocean air, the green foamy water, and the dark purple sky looming above. I dive in, water rushing over my head. Thank you.
So, for my personal writing project, I wanted to write a novel, I guess. I'm not sure how long it will be, but I'm still working on it, so I'm going to share my prologue for said book. Do it, he barked, as he and his assistants viewed the workers from above. Everyone shuddered in fear, then took a deep breath and got ready to commence. Are you sure, sir? What about your son and daughter? Questioned the scientist. I have taken care of them. They will be all right, but that is none of your concern now, is it? Said the boss. No, sir. Not at all. I apologize. The scientist nodded his head and said, commence. The boss walked away and his assistants followed him down a dark and dimly lit hallway. Good. Now let's proceed with step 4, said the boss firmly. Right away, sir. Thank you. Next up is Vivian.
So I also did a poem. It's called Blurry Dots. Heart beats faster. Want to turn back, forth, side. As your stomach goes up, you go down. Adrenaline rushing through my body as the roller coaster dashes through the sky. My feet dangle as I see dots, blurry dots. Thank you.
So for my personal writing project, I also wrote a novel. It doesn't have a title right now. It's a working title, but accidentally in the editing process, I called it Wartime. So I'll be reading the beginning and a little bit later into the story. My name is E.J. Blaskowicz, and I'm about to die. The war was supposed to be easy, in and out, enlist and fight. This wasn't the case. My unit abandoned me, and I don't blame them. But whatever happened to a good soldier never leaves a man behind. Now it's just me, here, sitting in a bunker with thunderous mortar fire raining down around me. If anyone ever reads this, let it be a warning. Don't put a man's gun in a boy's arms. So now I'll be reading, don't copy it. I'll be reading a little bit later into the story. I'll be reading a little bit later into the story. Elliot James, it is my pleasure to announce that I'm your new platoon sergeant. I understand you have gone through previous training during your time at Fort Jackson. You'll go through a refresher course next week to get you up to par again for redeployment. I'll be seeing you Monday, 6 o'clock a.m. Be there. With a pivot, he marched off to the main building, a towering, gray-brick figure looming in the distance. I popped open the trunk and started towards the sleeping quarters. When I arrived, I was greeted by endless rows of bunk beds, all taken by luggage except for one. I plopped myself down on the lower bed and sat there for a few hours, reading my copy of The Alchemist in the dark room. The next few days, I took to a schedule. Wake up, exercise, eat, exercise, read, sleep. Training day began in the groggy morning at 6 o'clock sharp. Most rookies woke up a few minutes before 6 and scrambled to get their battle dress uniforms on before the exercise. I waited at the start until little clumps of people began trickling from the barracks. Most looked timidly at the course, the barbed wire, cargo netting, taunting them. But me, no, I was ready for this. I would now like to welcome up Finn.
Okay, so I also created a poem for my personal writing project, and it's called Caught Red-Handed. There was a subpar man who liked sandwiches, although he thought of himself as a hero. He started a sandwich club and wasted a year of his life. Some people complained he won't let us sleep. They wondered why he did this, why he would wrap this up. He didn't have any beef with them.
I just didn't beg at it.
So for my personal writing project, I wrote a biography on Brenda Fries. Brenda Fries is the University of Maryland women's basketball head coach and former player. In her fourth year of coaching the University of Maryland, she won the 2006 Women's National Championship. She has also won many ACC championships and coaching awards. Brenda Sue Fries was born on April 30th, 1970 in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Brenda Fries has 5 siblings: Deb, Cindy, Marcia, Stacy, and Jeff. She attended Washington High School in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and played volleyball and basketball for 4 years, as well as track and softball for 1 year. Brenda then attended the University of Arizona and played guard for their basketball team from 1989 to 1993. In 1989, she was selected to play basketball at the Pac-10 tour in West Germany. Brenda has 2 twin boys, Marcus and Tyler, born on February 17, 2008. In 2010, Tyler was diagnosed with leukemia. At games, the team raised money for Tyler's treatment and other children diagnosed with cancer. Brenda balances coaching and family life very well. Her 2 boys and husband, Mark, come to a lot of the women's games to support her and the team. Brenda is a very supportive and motherly coach. At the beginning of the year, the entire team goes on a trip together. This year, they went to Italy. This allows everyone entering the team to get acquainted and bond so they can truly play as a team. Brenda makes practices fun for the girls, but also with the same intensity of a game. She also created many traditions on the team. On Halloween, she dresses up during practices and runs into the gym, throwing candy everywhere. Brenda Fries is an amazing coach and mother. Brenda Fries should be known by the whole basketball world for her dedication to the game. She inspires me to want to play for her at the University of Maryland one day. Thank you. Next up is Ozzy.
Okay, so for my personal writing project, I chose to do a poem that I worked on last year. I decided to work on it because I had more thoughts on it, so here it is. Earthrise. The pale blue dot in darkness, arcing in the vacuum, stopped by nothing. Lives that wander, do not think. Are we but specks? We matter so little, care so little, for each other, the planet, taking little time to behold the cosmic unknown, the sharpness of mountains and craters, bewilder my eyes in their size. Though now I see they are small and insignificant, like me. Okay, now I'd like to welcome Madeline.
So, I'm actually going to be presenting my grandfriend's speech since I know a lot of you weren't here. I am working on a novel though, and I know some of you guys read it. So, this speech is about construction, how I constructed myself from the Greenspring curriculum. Greenspring shaped who I am today. Montessori always taught me how to know what grace kindness, and courtesy is. I know how to guide my thoughts through 3 gateways. Is it true? Is it kind? And is it necessary? I don't just let my thoughts go through that process, but I also present myself through that process, so others can take me seriously. Greenspring taught me also how to listen, form an opinion, and defend that opinion with an open mind and a diplomatic acceptance of other people's points of views. But I know I still have a lot to learn. Grace and courtesy is one of the most important aspects of how we interact with others and our environment, which is why we work on it at Greenspring. The first impression is the most important impression. In the morning, when all the children are entering the classroom, the guide greets them with a warm smile and a firm handshake. We have to practice these things. We are not looking for perfection, but rather continued growth. One of the first things I learned in lower elementary was whenever you're talking to someone, you should guide your question through 3 gateways. Is it true? Is it kind? And is it necessary? If I say no to any of those questions, then I do not say what I'm thinking to say. It can also be applied to action too. Is it true? The action always needs to be true to yourself. Is it kind? Would it make the other person feel good, or would I feel good after doing this action? Is it necessary? Do I really need to do this action at this time? These 3 questions can guide you through life, especially any situation where you need to resolve an issue with another person. Forming and defending an opinion is one of the most difficult things to do, and still being open to others' ideas. When I was little, I didn't have an opinion. That's why I got along so well with my grandmother. Now that Greenspring has taught me that my ideas matter, I can be true to myself, have an open mindset, and see the way people see them. Other people see them, to better expand my knowledge. Greenspring taught me how to be my best self. I could say this in a million different ways, but I hope you can see how Greenspring let me thrive and meet me. That's what I am grateful for. Being able to express myself by being true to myself. Knowing how to speak around others, how to act around others, and how to create myself around others. That I am enough. I am so grateful that I get to stay here another year, thanks to the addition of the 9th grade, because I know I'm not done yet building my voice. I would like to thank you all for coming today and supporting your children so they have the opportunity to be who they need to be. Thank you.
Okay, so next up is our personal projects. There's only 2 of us presenting today, but we will be presenting what our personal projects have been and what personal projects are. You may remember them from last year if you were here. Is something that we're passionate about and that we want to learn more and know more about it, and to present it to everyone so everybody can know. So, I guess I can go now. So my personal project is called Be More Nets. So my mission is to put up basketball nets at basketball courts around the city that don't have any nets. Because for me and for maybe other basketball players, playing without a net takes away from the experience of playing the game. So I am creating a website for you to learn more about it. So if you can go to the About page. I have a video, but it's not, I'll have it up when my website's published. I also have an Instagram for the page, which will be more updated. So I'll post pictures that have of like places that I have put up nets or that I'm planning to or that don't have nets. It's called Be More Nets, so if you want to go follow.
It's just you today, so it's technology. It's not like you today.
Yeah. But the About page is just my mission, and then it has a video of a couple students playing basketball. So that you'll be able to see it when the website's up. And then also I have a contact page. So if you're interested in contacting me, or if you have somebody that's interested in basketball or who'd like to donate anything or just have questions about it, I also have that contact page, and anything you ask will go right to my email. Yeah, thank you. Next up, yeah.
Have you identified particular sites to put nets on?
No. That's my next step, I think.
How are you funding the nets? Where are the nets coming from?
Well, I actually Anna reached out, or I reached out to Anna, or she reached out to me and said that the Goldsecker Foundation, a guy named Nat, he would be a good person to contact. So I emailed him a couple weeks ago. I haven't heard anything back from him.
Why didn't you tell me?
Oh, I CC'd you too.
Yeah, but...
Oh, okay. We'll talk about this later. So I emailed him, and hopefully he'll be able to donate something or help me with actually starting and getting it out, the word out to people.
Any other ideas on?
What?
Yeah, need to have a meeting with him.
Any other ideas on sources or local businesses?
For now, my dad was thinking, or one thing that I've been working on with my dad is, since he has his own business, Luke Works, he makes concrete and furniture and things like that. So one thing, he makes these planners. There's a planner over on that table, and he was thinking about if I make them like after school, like one after school every day, I could sell those on SD or something like that, and then get money. So then people would know that it would be going to me to get money for my project, so then I could purchase nets and things like that. And you can buy nets in bulk.
Did you talk about how you're using social media too? I can't remember if you said that.
Yeah, I'm using social media so you guys can stay posted with everything that I have going on. So the Instagram and the website. Yeah.
I know there is some funding through like police athletic leagues, not a lot, but PAL, it's called PAL. And I feel like this was something that they would support. You know, and probably some of these are in areas where, you know, where the nets are needed. So that might be something across the city, police athletic league.
Thank you.
Great idea.
Okay. I would like to welcome Ben.
My personal project was definitely not learning how to play the piano. Just have, it was a joke. Because I didn't. So, you caught me. My personal project was learning how to play the piano. Oh, shucks. So, for this trimester, I've been learning how to play Ode to Joy on the piano. I'm not the best at it, but that's why I'm doing it, so just gonna play it. Okay, it's good. Lately, for the last 3 weeks, I've been helping Lower L with their play that they're putting on. which you'll see at the winter show. But that's what I'm working on currently. But this will be my personal project for, I'm thinking the rest of the year. But yeah.
Yeah.
Trimester, we've been studying the food system. So for our reflections at the end of the trimester, we were asked to reflect upon one of these 3 questions. How has food production and consumption affected humanity? How is water essential to the survival of humanity? And what practices are essential for sustainably and responsibly feeding humanity and caring for the earth? So we are all going to read an excerpt from our reflections.
I chose the 3rd question to reflect upon. What practices are essential for sustainably and responsibly feeding humanity and caring for the earth? Ever since humanity began farming, everything changed. When farmers started to prioritize money over health, everything changed again. Buying local and organic food sustainably and responsibly feeds humanity. More money goes to the farmer, money stays in your community, and organic farming practices don't harm the environment. Industrial farming is not the right choice, and if everyone just began buying local, the world would be a better place. Thank you.
My question was the first one, how has food production and consumption affected humanity? Many consumers want their food a certain way, which is hard for the farmers and companies that are producing the food. Quote, consumers generally assume they have nothing to do with causing agricultural pollution. Many of them ask for food that has not been chemically treated, but chemically treated food is marketed mainly in response to the preferences of the consumer. End quote. That's from page 85 of the One Straw Revolution. Consumers expect and want perfect-looking food, like not having any bruises on their apples. They want food when it's not even in the right season for growing food. The producers want to make their consumers happy, so then they use chemicals that are bad for the consumer, earth, and the producer themselves. Thank you.
My question was same as Emmy's. There are many other ways industrial agriculture has affected us and our environment. An exponentially increasing population, widespread use of monocultures, and the treatment of animals are the most significant topics that needed to be addressed and changed. Industrial agriculture will continue to grow and develop in this awful way until it falls. We will then be left with no food, and poverty will reach the 15% of the world's population that currently has enough to eat. These are the powerful people who will then maybe pay attention enough to make a change. But by then, it will be too late. Thank you.
Okay, so I chose to reflect on the first question, which is how food production and consumption affect humanity. So the fall of the Roman Empire is a good example of how food production and consumption has affected humanity. The Romans over-farmed the land they lived on, causing erosion and making soil less fertile, and contributed to their fall. Over-farming and not thinking of the future is harmful to humanity. If this continues, like the Roman Empire, we will fall.
I chose the question, how has food production and consumption affected humanity? Mass production is harming our environment in more ways than one. When I think of CSAs, I think of farmers selling food straight from their farm. The mass production companies are changing that. Now when you order a CSA, you can end up getting pineapples, oranges, and avocados in the middle of winter. The only way the mass producers can get those out-of-season foods that may not even be native to your area is by having them shipped halfway around the world. This is harmful to our environment because when these foods get shipped by boats, trucks, and trains, they release CO2 into the atmosphere that contributes to global warming.
I again chose the same question. How has food production and consumption affected humanity? Agricultural runoff pollutes waterways. It can cause a fluctuation in algae growth and can create an aquatic dead zone. Nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus are essential for growing crops, but they can also trigger algal growth in rivers, lakes, and bays. Because last year's drought prevented some parched fields from absorbing fertilizers, an extra load of nutrients is flowing into Midwest waterways and will end up in the Gulf of Mexico. Once there, the chemicals can threaten aquatic life, says Bob Lurch, a USDA soil scientist. Aquatic dead zones are areas of water where the oxygen has been snuffed by the unbalanced ecosystem. In this case, the algae will smother the supply and kill all of the aquatic wildlife. This is, without a doubt, detrimental to the environment.
I picked the second question, how is water essential to the survival of humanity? When you go through stacks of paper, you may not know about all the water used to make that paper. It takes 3 gallons of water to make a single sheet of paper. To save water, you may want to start working on the computer. Almost every adult that I know likes to drink coffee, but not many of them know how much water it goes into producing it. It takes 37 gallons of water to grow the coffee. Next time you drink coffee, think about how much water and time goes into you having that cup of coffee.
I also chose the second question. Fresh drinking water is precious. So precious that there is only 3% in the whole entire world, and the other 97% is salt water. This 3% of water is the survival of humanity and life. Water sustains us, helps us grow food, and helps us grow food. The human body is 70% water. Water is humanity.
I picked the first question. How has food production and consumption affected humanity? The food system is continually evolving. Technological innovations have helped produce more food so more people can eat healthier foods. As time has passed by, the quality and efficiency of producing foods have increased because of the needs of an expanding global population. We are also farming our land more efficiently than ever before. Through industrialization of the nation's agriculture, we have better and healthier choices for food.